also an invitation for you to join the conversation as well. To start the conversation in our studio this morning is a gentleman of the fourth esteem of the REM and the public affairs analyst, Honorable Desmond Fowobi Olariwaju. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Beatles, and it's good to be in your studio once more.
Now, gentlemen, let's get straight into the first discussion of the day. It's over the sad future as it reports by the Daily Blueprint this morning captured the failed assassination attempt on the life of the 45th President of the United States of America. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has joined other world leaders to condemn this in strong terms. Would see some of the visuals, and many were asking, with the tight security presence around rallies, how this young man, Mr. Crooks, who is now demised, managed to beat security and get as close as grazing the ear of Mr. Trump.
You see, the concept of security sometimes it defies whatsoever measure you put in place. Sometimes, and that is why human security and social inclusion is very much more important. You know, security is beyond the hardwares and having surveillance and having people. Intelligence and inclusivity and working intelligence matters a lot. Human intelligence and relationship is more important in terms of security beyond some of these architectures that you see. You know, America as a country and world police can boast at any time as having stringent and strong security network in the world. But what happened also exposes some of the internal issues that we may be having or people might be having in countries unlike America. So that is to tell you that conflict as a concept, it is a natural phenomenon in every part of the world, either in the poor south or the rich north. But what I want to bring out from this is that everything has also helped. Even the tight security and the surveillance and everything has helped, and that was why it was able to neutralize. At the end of the day, if it was to be some third or developing countries, maybe the young man would have succeeded and even escaped. So for the fact that the young man did not succeed, to tell you, it's also give kudos to the security network, the security of America, and nipping that young guy is also something that we should give. If we were to be in Nigeria or some, I don't want to mention Nigeria, if we were to be in Africa and some developing country, you see that it would have succeeded and the guy would have made way, just like Boko Haram is having their feet in Nigeria.
Now, for the fact that Mr. Crooks was even able to fire a shot towards Mr. Trump, and you know he missed him by just a few inches,
yes,
hitting his ear.
Yes.
If that had been a direct hit and Mr. Crooks was neutralized, would you have considered that an actual successful assassination?
First, I tell you, that young man who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump,
yes,
you know, he would have put in so much effort to see that he hit his targets. He was not, as at the time, it was not monitored. He had all the time, he had all the technology, yes, to see that he hit his targets. But there are some circumstances, maybe security, strategic locations and all that prevented him. Impossible. So he just had to have a direct hit.
Now, if you would also recall that from reports regarding who the assassinator is, he is actually a registered Republican in the U.S. Now, some people have argued that this is probably an inside job by the Secret Service to take out Trump. What do you make of these allegations, and why do you think a Republican would want to take out Trump? A Democrat, a Republican, yes, would want to take out Trump.
I wouldn't want to go deep. I wouldn't want to go deep into that conversation because I don't know the sources. I don't know the people mentioned. If you have mentioned maybe Obama, Clinton have made that allegation, I would have maintained or give a strong debate in respect to that.
These were takes that people made on X.
I was in a conversation with a couple of friends yesterday about what happened in America, and we're just having natural, conversation as regards the reason why would anybody want to take down Trump, and could it be a Democrat or Republican? Could it be like he planned a stage to gain public sympathy? Could it be that he's becoming a threat to Democrat and all that? So we're just having a normal gist, but we're not able to achieve any logical conclusion because investigation is ongoing. Even the guy's account was deleted on Facebook and all that. So let's leave it for American intelligence and security experts. In the next few days, I trust America, they would come up because it would be good for the government of America by Joe Biden to set up a committee, investigative committee, to ensure that they bring this investigation to a logical conclusion, so it will make more sense to the people of the world.
I believe that is already underway.
That is what we need to be able to do.
While speculations are greeting this development, investigations at the suspect's home have found bombs in his car and his house as well. And much like Honorable Desmond has said this morning, he hopes that the intelligence abroad will be able to come with a conclusive statement as to who is behind this attack. Now, the adage is that dead men tell no tales. So you can ask Mr. Crew. Well, we'll look at some of the assets from social media, and when we come back, we'll now turn our attention to national issues of concerns as captured on the dailies. Stay with us. With us this morning, let's revisit more newspapers this morning as we expand the focus of our conversations in light with prominent national issues of concern. Now, it will be recalled that the current administration had declared a state of emergency on food security. Now, they had taken other measures following the conclusion of the Federal Executive Council meeting held last week. And much of this has been premised on a 150 days window for duty-free food importation. This morning, the Matrix newspaper leads with that in its lead story.
Well, let's take a look at the Matrix newspaper again, Bito. It reads, Tinubu's food import policy additional raises alarm. Goes further to state that it warns Nigeria cannot import its way out of food insecurity. Cautions against turning into a food import dependent nation. Finally, it reads policy short-term measures to address rising food prices, according to the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Now, listening to Mr. President, he says this is just a short-term measure. Many are warning that the former administration of President Muhammadu Buhari had placed a ban on food importation to allow farmers produce. They're now saying that in as much as that policy looks to have not bared its intended purpose, with this decision to take the lift of the ban on importation, make it even any better?
First of all, I would like to commend Mr. President for that move. We cannot, because we want to grow the economy by hook or by force, and they will now allow Nigerians to die of hunger and starvation and unbearable inflation of food in the market. Why the policy by President Muhammadu Buhari, the ban on the importation of food to the country, is a very good policy that will give increase to local production of food and make us more sufficient and independent on food. It's a good one. We welcomed it. Even when prices of things was rising as at that time,
yes,
we also, along the line, we had a stable economy, and the pressure was reduced on FS for the importation of food at some point. Though that policy has not yielded the expected result, but nevertheless, we are work in progress. But because of the fuel, because of the removal of the fuel subsidy,
yes,
the whole situation looks as if there have now been effort made by President Muhammadu Buhari policy, because there was so much inflation, there was so much starvation, and the country is beginning to lose its strength.
Well, back then, when there was a ban on importation of food, it sort of helped local producers, to grow bigger, because there was very little competition from external forces. But back then also, we noticed, or you would recall, that there was also a lot of complaint that the government had banned importation of food, but was not making adequate measures or taking adequate steps to ensuring that the local producers are well supported, so that their yields, would yield more profit.
Shijuke, let me tell you this. Why that policy is a good policy? Because there is no time that is wrong to to do the right thing.
But was the federal government supporting local producers?
Of course.
In
See,
what,
let me
in
even
what,
tell, let
in
me,
what way? In what
thank
way?
you so much. You know, the federal government through President President Muhammadu Buhari as the former president, they made a lot of subsidy in terms of fertilizers and incentives to farmers. In short, that period saw some level of revolution in our agriculture. Now, I want you to also understand where I'm going to. It is not that Nigeria has not produced sufficient food, but the problem is because of what? Floating our naira, floating the currency, now made it more convenient for countries, borders countries across West Africa to take food from Nigeria, because their currency has now gained more strength over the naira. So they prefer to even import from Nigeria instead of going to Germany, instead of going to China, instead of importing from France. They prefer to import from Nigeria because Nigeria, to some extent, due to the policy of President Muhammadu Buhari, a lot of people went into mechanized farming, changing their scope from subsistence farming, and we had sufficient food. At some point, let me tell you, we started having problem when President Tinubu, policies came in. Yeah. But those policies are not really bad in their, is to give increase to more productions and citing of companies to roles, yes, to move investors into Nigeria. Yes. But let me tell you, where we missed it is because what President Bola Tinubu is doing right now, they would have put all those into consideration before even removing the subsidy. Yeah. Nigeria would have survived 6 more months from that May, from May 29 to around maybe September or October of 2023 before suspending subsidy. I'm not saying they made a mistake, but it was what the president should have done. And there was and there was no proper planning, no sufficient food, no sufficient fuel. What we would have done. We still depend on importation of fuel. We still depend on so many things. What the president would have done to some of the money they are now using for interventions here, intervention to state and order to bail out state, they would have invested that money to stock food, to stock PMS, and still give to people, and the Nigerian people, and that would have helped them to now start a strong campaign across Nigeria to the farmers, to oil producer, and even those investors to the oil company.
Now, in your opinion, yes, the massive food imports that the federal government, yes, wants to adopt now, would it in any way, yes, bring down food prices across the country?
Most definitely.
Now, there's a challenging approach.
Now, additional, I want to appreciate additional. I saw his giant strides in the African Development Bank, and the statement made by additional is as if additional was not following, or he didn't get the full details of the plans that Asiwaju Bola made. Actually, I'm not speaking for the government, but I read the full details of the minutes after the Federal Executive Council meeting. It is just for a meantime. Why they also commencing a strong and a robust revolution in the agriculture. They want to engage more young people across Nigeria, and I think the figure they quote there is about 1,000. Now they are bringing 2,000 tractors. Between now and 10 years time, they are bringing 10,000. Between now and 10 years, they are bringing 10,000 tractors, and they are engaging more young people in in agriculture. And that would be a sustainable approach. This is just a short-term remedy to the food shortage in the country. Like you said, it is not sustainable. It can't help the Africa of our dream. Importation of food cannot help us grow our economy. But right now, we need certain measures. You can, when you open a business as a young man, you don't expect to start making profit immediately. Therefore, you need to save enough to help you stabilize your business between that day you open it and maybe 6 months or 3 months, depending on the kind of business you want to do. The same thing applicable here. You can't just shut the country and then do policies and expect people, to be productive. Hunger can make people die. Inflation can make people die, and it will even cause more problem than solving.
When the people
solving
are
the problem.
hungry, the country is not at peace.
So I'm not supporting additional for that statement he made. He should go back to his drawing board and check what the president does and check some of the plans. And what we need here is not just to speak, is to help the government to make sure that what they've said, they hat on them. That's what I expect from additional and other people who feels that this policy is not a good one, considering that we want to grow our own naira, we want to grow our own food and make Nigeria sufficient and the economic sustainable.
Lastly, before we move on to the next item on our review this morning, it's on different opinions as a national debate has unfolded on the introduction of community price boards to regulate the prices of this food that's going to be imported.
Yes.
Some are opposing it, saying that the government cannot be the ones to fix prices of commodities.
Government have business in that business. First, government is putting a lot of money out. They are not even taking anything from the custom. They have removed waivers for the importation of rice and all that and some of the foods. So for the fact that you're not paying, for the fact that government has given waivers, that means government should also monitor. The essence of this policy in the first place is not to maximize the profit. And you know, my own belief about businesses, you know, why Nigeria has not flourished is not because we do not have policies, but the human behavior. Most Nigerians are only interested in growing richer and bigger, not considering the people. You know, when the concept of your business is just about taking from the community, taking from the country, without giving commensurable back to the society, you find out that we will not have a sustainable environment. So because of our nature, Nigerians, some of us are so callous, some of us are so selfish. So because of our nature as Nigerians, it is a good thing for government to set up committees, to set up people that monitor or regulate the prices of these commodities.
Now, in the coming days, we'll find out more focus as the federal government has labeled these plans as short-term measures to curb the rising food insecurity. Now, I mean, moving forward, much like Honorable Desmond has said, if there be fuel at affordable prices, it might also bring down the cost of commodities owing to a reduction in the cost of transportation. A lot of these promises have been hinged on the coming on board of one of the largest single-train refineries in the world, with a 650,000 barrel capacity per day. Dangote has also told Nigerians to expect PMS come the month of August. This is captured on our next newspaper, the First Newspaper.
Well, on the First Newspaper, it reads, Dangote refinery supplies petrol in August amid challenges from IOCs. August is here, Honorable.
Yeah.
It's just around the corner.
Well, we have been waiting for these supplies of PMS to the Nigerian local market since last year. Remember that this was actually commissioned by President Buhari.
Yes.
And they promised that by July, you know, July is just about some few months after the pronouncement of suspension of payment of subsidy by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Yes.
And from that time till now, it has lingered due to some mechanical human factors.
Yes.
So far, so good. We heard that by August, unfailingly, we'll start having. Don't forget that Dangote refinery is big enough to supply all the PMS that we need in West Africa.
Okay.
In West Africa.
Not even in Nigeria.
Not just in Nigeria. You know, they have a storage facility that can sustain this country for 14 days, about 15 billion, you know, liters that can sustain us for complete 15 days.
Even without production?
Even without production, you know.
Or importation as well.
Okay.
And importation. So if government knows what they are doing, they should see that Dangote refinery work at all costs. Apart from that, our refineries in Warri, our refineries in Kaduna, our refineries in Port Harcourt, we heard, because monopoly is not very good. You know, they say power corrupts, absolute power corrupt, absolutely. Yeah. So it is important we have check and balances. Government will use their own refinery to checkmate Dangote refinery. You don't allow Dangote to have his dinner, lunch, the way he wants it. We should monitor, and the only way you can monitor is not by policing him. He's a private entity, he's a private business, he can decide what he wants to sell to Nigeria. But when we have our refineries in place, it will help to check. And that is why I would like to urge to complement the effort of Dangote refinery to ensure that our refineries are put to work.
Well,